Is it time to buy Bitcoin? So in this video today, we're going to talk about where Bitcoin's at, what the market's looking like, and what to expect in the coming months, and trying to answer the question whether or not this is a right time to scale into the asset class. So if we look at the charts again, Bitcoins have been going up these past few weeks. So this is a chart of the price of Bitcoin, and just look at the past year, for example. Yeah, Bitcoin has really been going up since February of this year. So in February, it was around uh, $62,000, and then right now it's at $81,000. And this pattern is usually what really trips people up. People are expecting that, oh, hey, Bitcoin's been going up for the last few months. Is this the time for a breakout, right? And what I want to show you today is why that might not be the case, and want to actually caution people about trading this move. I mean, it could play out differently, but based on the stuff that we're seeing, it doesn't seem like this move is going to be a durable rally up. So if we go to the Fear and Greed Index, we can actually see the movements of Bitcoin based on price. So like if we go back, so this top chart is basically just the price of Bitcoin again, and this bottom chart is the Fear and Greed Index. So what's the Fear and Greed Index? It's basically just trying to quantify how much greed or fear there is in the crypto market, right? And what's interesting about this chart is that in periods where greed spikes, that usually kind of signals some kind of reversal. So for example, in November of 2025, you can see that after Bitcoin had crashed from 120,000 to around 91,000 or 86,000, you can see that the Fear and Greed Index at the bottom like ended up falling a lot into fear. So people were pretty greedy during the peak at 125, which is normal, right? The price is going up, everyone's euphoric because the price is high, but then once it crashed, you see it crash going down. And now, this is the similar structure that we're seeing now, because like from November last year all the way to around January of this year, right? It was just in an uptrend or sideways. So it was around $85,000, and then it ended up going to $96,000. And in this move, this sideways, slightly upward move, you can see the Fear and Greed Index spike, right? This top of $95,000, people were like, hey, maybe the bull market's still in. It catches your emotions into greed, and then once this Fear and Greed Index spiked, you can see it dropped and then it crashed back down. And this is a pretty common pattern in markets wherein long sideways consolidations that have slightly upward trend and spikes in the fear and greed eventually reach reversal going down. Yeah, so here, for example, we're seeing it kind of play out again. So in February, we were at around $70,000. You know, once it fell from this high of 95, people started becoming fearful again, right? The fear and greed index went to 9, which is like extreme fear. And then we slowly trended upwards from February to until now, right? Now at May 12, right, to $80,000. So we're up around $20,000 in this entire 5-month move or 4-month move, right? And you can see this fear and greed index is spiking once again. And just like in November, it seems like if this spikes, this might resolve its way to the downside, right? And how do I know that? Well, firstly, this is a similar pattern from November, right? So a slight uptrend, flash, fear and greed, crash. Right now we have slight uptrend, flash, fear and greed, and it's possibly a crash. But it is possible that it might break into the upside. So we need other data points to kind of confirm this outlook of the market. So if we go back to the price of Bitcoin, we created this price risk table wherein this is basically the price of Bitcoin, and we create a model that fits all the data of Bitcoin into these corridors, so we can kind of estimate the peaks and the bottoms, right? So you can see it's only really operating within these corridors, and even in previous cycles, the bottom usually touches near the bottom, right? So one reason why I don't think that this is the bottom yet is because we're still in the middle band, right? You can see that this model takes into account diminishing returns and volatility because like at the start, the band is wider versus now, right? So, but even with that taken into account, you can see that we're still pretty much in fair value, whereas in previous cycles, we reached the bottom. And what we can do actually is we can extrapolate this line. So instead of an upward trend, we can squish it into like a vertical line. That way, when it's normalized, we can use it as an indicator. And this is what it looks like. So basically, we can see that here during the bottoms of the previous cycles, we reached around 10 risk or 0.10 risk, right? Even below these bands. But right now, we're still at 0.5 risks. So this is really telling us that there is still a lot more room to go down. So one, the fear and greed index is kind of flashing, similar patterns to the past when it went down. Two, we can see that the current price of Bitcoin isn't near previous cycles. Granted, it didn't reach the top just like other cycles, but we're still so far from any of these previous lows, right? So because of that, it's probably gonna break to the downside. And third, if we look at actually just time-based, time-wise, we can look at this chart on TradingView, which is just the price of Bitcoin. And sorry that there's so many lines because I've been drawing on this all the time. But we can actually quantify how many days it usually takes for Bitcoin to bottom from the top, right? So I think the top in July last year was the top, right? I think that was the top, and if that was the top, right, and we quantify it from the previous tops, we can kind of extrapolate how many bars or days it usually takes to bottom, right? So if it's not broke, why fix it? So here in the previous cycle, from the top, right, from this top, it took around 85 days for it to bottom, right? So around 378 days plus or minus a few days for it to bottom. The previous cycle, if we do the same thing from the very top, it took around 357 days. So it's quite interesting that these past two cycles took the exact same number of days, plus or minus 10 days, 20 days, for it to reach a conclusive bottom, right? And even the cycle before that, right, we can see that the cycle before that took around 400 days to reach the bottom. So past three cycles were all more than 300 days. The past two cycles were 360 days plus or minus 10 days, right? So if we can just say that, you know, we're following normal cycle movements, which I think we are, it should happen that the bottom happens in around 360-ish days, maybe 400 days. And that puts us around November, the 9th of November or early October, right? How long has it been currently? So currently it's only been 190 days. So in terms of time, we're not even there yet as well, right? If this was the bottom, it would be, one, very unnatural in terms of the price, right? Because in the past cycles, we've never reached a bottom remotely close to just this low. But two, yeah, time-wise, it's way too early compared to all the other prices, right? So past two cycles, it was 360 days. Why would this cycle be any different, right? And if you look at lows, it's lows to lows, it's also pretty much the same. So the previous cycle, so if we were just to draw a bar from the previous cycle low to the next cycle low, it was around 1,400 days, right? And the cycle before that, it was also 1,400 days from this low to the next major low, right? So, surprise, surprise, 2 cycles ago, they were both 1,400 days. If we just do 1,400 days from the last low, that would put us around, also around November, 2nd of November. Right? So a lot of these indicators are telling us that the cycle low is not yet in. And we can probably expect the cycle low to be around November, October timeframe, earliest maybe around June or July. Yeah, so basically that's what I'm seeing in the markets right now. It is hard to navigate crypto and it's hard to navigate investing because if everyone was able to invest at the right time, then everyone would be rich, which is impossible. Trading is essentially a zero-sum game. For you to be able to make money, someone else has to lose money, right? Someone has to buy what you're selling in the market. And that exact exchange of goods means that, it is technically a zero-sum game. So it's hard because you're basically competing against everyone else in the markets and all these feelings that are happening. So basically that's the recap. TLDR, maybe don't go into Bitcoin yet right now. If you're in it for the long haul, like 10 years, fine, go for it. It doesn't really matter in the long run. Bitcoin will probably keep going up. But if you want to maximize your local gains, I would say that Bitcoin hasn't shown its bottom yet, right? Even from the fear and greed index, from the price, and also the time, it doesn't seem like it's there yet. So I'm just trying to caution people because I have lost a lot of money in the past trying to trade these moves. But if you just look at all the different data points and see, it's probably not yet the bottom, right? So that's it for the video today. If you guys found this helpful, like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.